Alrighty, guys, let's go to the first question. So this is from Spencer. Spencer writes, "Hey guys, with the cold season looming before us, I wondered if you could recommend your preferred methods to provide heat to a home under construction, mostly when it comes to finishing drywall and painting. We had been using a torpedo heater, aka a salamander, with either kerosene or propane fuel while doing interior framing and mechanical work. But as stated before, these put tons of moisture into the space that really doesn't need any more humidity added. Thank you for all the amazing help and the content the show puts out, Spencer." Well, thanks, Spencer. We appreciate it. Alrighty, let's start off quick. What do you guys think? We have a couple of options I can think of. What do you guys use to heat your houses under construction?
I don't. I let the subs freeze.
Mike says, "Sorry, wait until the spring."
Yeah. I don't live in a climate like where Randy is, where when it gets down, if it won't top, if the temperature won't break 15 degrees Fahrenheit, then we just don't work. And I know in Randy's climate, the guys can't do that because, 4 months a year they won't be able to work.
It gets a little rough. Luckily, my brother is, when I was building, was my mechanical engineer. He did the electrical, plumbing, and heating.
And septic systems.
And sewer and the excavation and all the other work that goes with it. Yeah. So I was really lucky in that he did not, a lot of times when I was building, I tried to set it up so that we were enclosed by the time snow fell. We had the roof was finished, exterior was finished. Then we'd move interior and start our interior finishing. My brother might have maybe got some of the stuff going, but a lot of times we weren't far enough along to have it insulated. My brother took an electric furnace out of an old house that he had. It was a bigger one, and they use a lot of power, unfortunately. But that's what we use for temporary heat. It's dry. We're not pumping a bunch of moisture in. It can sit in the unit. We don't have to worry about carbon monoxide or indoor air quality because it's not adding. It's not deteriorating any of that. But there's some other options. I was down on a project with Jake Bruton down in Missouri. And they have got a trailer-mounted air source heat pump. And then what they do is they've got a duct that's already set up, and they just come up with a couple of flex ducts that go to a couple of windows that they have they replace the window with a panel of insulation or OSB or something to kind of hold the panel in place. And they've basically used that as a supply and return. There's only one, but it's on opposite ends of the house, so it circulates through the house. The nice thing about that for them is they are in a mixed climate. So if it gets really hot in the summertime, they've got air conditioning and some space conditioning, some dehumidification going as well, plus heat in the wintertime. Again, they're very efficient. Are they very cheap to operate? Well, it depends on outside temperature and what you're trying to achieve inside. But the other option I've seen is there are some gas-fired furnaces that are set outside that are vented outside, and they just have a duct that goes in that blows the hot air inside. Most of those are rentals that I see. I don't see very many contractors that own their own. But
I've done that. I've done that, but taken a salvaged out of a building we were remodeling, an old propane furnace, and we plunk it outside with, just let it draw in its own air and blow it out the top, and then we would duct the return and supply much in the same way that Jake did with the air source heat pump, and we would just blow in the warm air and suck out the return air, and it would warm the building enough without putting the fumes of combustion as well as the excess moisture into the building, because that's one of the problems when you run a torpedo heater is not only you're getting all the fumes, which will give all the subs headaches, but you're also dumping tons of moisture into the building. So I think something where you've got that combustion appliance or the heat pump outside and then duct it in, that's going to work really well because it's going to dry the building out at the same time as it's providing a little bit of tempering heat to make it more comfortable for the workers.
Yeah, comfort is it's a little subjective. It's not like we're in there in t-shirts and, usually it's 50 degrees. It's, 20 below outside. It's 50 degrees inside, but it's fine. We get by. Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing I learned this a couple of years ago with torpedo heaters. They actually also leave like a film of, I don't know if it's soot or latents or whatever, and that can wreak havoc on some of your finished, like especially if you like have like glue down floor. When I first came out of school and I was working for a commercial GC, we had a hospital that it was, elevated slabs, and they had run torpedo heaters in these, while before the building was even enclosed, when it was still just steel superstructure. And they went to it was a hospital, and they went to put down this like rubberized flooring months later, and had massive problems with it not adhering. And to come to find out, it was because of that latents or that soot, whatever it was from those heaters, didn't let that glue that was holding down the floor bond to the concrete, and that ended up costing millions of dollars to fix. It was like a whole hospital worth of problems.
Ouch.
So it's pretty crazy. It's things you don't think about. But yeah, around here I've seen to Randy's point that the outside furnaces are very common for us, where they sit outside in a trailer and you blow the hot air in. Seems to work. So on that, and Spencer brings up a good point when we talk about, we don't need to put extra moisture into these buildings. So we talked about on here a lot construction moisture. Your concrete drying out, your wood framing drying out, things like that. So Mike, we'll start with you. Do you know how long it takes for that to really get out of the building? Like, when is it safe to say, okay, we're going to close this up, we don't have any more construction moisture?
Well, it depends on a lot of things. Depends on where it's located, where the building's located, what's the soil moisture? Is there a concrete foundation? Did they do good waterproofing from top to bottom? Is there a capillary? There's so many things. There's no one round answer I could say 12 months or 16 months or 5 years or a month and a half. It unanswerable question without more information.
Yeah, I tend to monitor, the one of the projects, one of the last most recent projects I did was that concrete freeze home where we eliminated the concrete slab, and I was curious where it was going to perform. I had no idea where we were going to be at, so we had portable monitors monitoring the conditions inside, and it's been my experience that after about a year, we have HRVs in these homes too. So once they're occupied, they're wintertime. It's a pretty heavy dose of being dehumidified with these HRVs all winter. And after the first year, it's typically where we see it's okay. But like to Mike's point, it varies. It just depends on what the rest of the conditions are. So yeah.
So Randy, on that slabless slab, did you find that it dried out faster from your monitoring? Did it seem like it, or you
initially?
Really tell?
Yeah, initially, and then we had a bunch of failures in PEX fittings, so we were getting water leaks that nobody knew about, and we had an elevator. It took us a little bit to figure out what was going on, and yeah, it's not just exactly what we want in that kind of assembly is that type of problem. The good news is that it seems like we've got them all fixed, and humidity levels are back to normal. It was within a few months that whatever happened dried out or wherever it went. That's the scary part. I don't know where it went. Where'd all that moisture go? I'm sure it's in that assembly, but did it leave the assembly? Yeah. But the interior levels are fine. No weird odors. Everything seems to be fine in those. Yeah, not a good experience. That was one of those ones that keep you up all night. What's going on?
Oh man, we're gonna have to have another podcast on plumbing. That scares me. And as somebody who's done quite a bit of my own work plumbing wise, that might be a topic for another conversation. But yeah, I think I've heard concrete depending on the quantity and your interior conditions could take a couple years to really get all the moisture out of. So
or longer. Yeah, I've heard longer. Yeah.
So it's crazy. I think Brian has a theory that his home, he's still seeing elevated interior humidity levels in the winter related to some construction moisture still escaping. So, definitely something to monitor for sure. hopefully, Spencer, that answers your question. Don't use salamander heaters, but electric heat or something indirect should help you out there and hopefully get you going.
And dehumidify. Run a dehumidifier. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be a great way to deal with some of the moisture in the air for sure.
I'm going to take a little. I'm glad you brought up dehumidifier. I found with building high performance houses is that just running the dehumidifier in the winter, the heat that comes off the dehumidifier is enough to warm the house up into like the upper 40s or low 50s, even on a good sized house. So you can do two things at once. You can warm the house and dehumidify it. It's after the insulation is installed and it's air sealed and it's buttoned up. But yeah, it kind of does dual purpose with those dehumidifiers. So you may not even need to put in temporary heat if you're buttoned up and you can run dehumidifiers to exhaust that moisture and warm it.
Yeah.
There we go.